Really excited to see a full room still. I can't tell if it's the programmatic hardcores or the programmatically curious, but hopefully you're all familiar with some of the concepts we're going to talk about in this next section here. I get the unenviable task of talking about research, but I'm going to try and make this as simple and compelling as possible so that everybody can learn something from this. So just for a little background here, we funded a research project which was released in September, adding data, boosting impact. This was with the Boston Consulting Group. And I think this flows nicely out of some of the brain trust of the industry that we just heard talking about how data is impacting their strategies today. I think a lot of the things that we just heard are not new concepts, certainly to anyone in this room. Anyone who's been in digital, certainly anyone who's been in the programmatic space is very familiar with how data is driving performance in the space. But where I think we still have a lot of work to do is in the execution. So what we did with this research project with BCG is we tried to take these concepts that are very familiar to everyone in the industry and put some hard metrics, some hard data against the results so that we can show in very real terms the data that we all have access to and the platforms we all have access to, if executed really well, the types of performance and impact it can drive for all the advertisers in the room today. Just a little bit more background on the work we're doing with BCG. So this is actually the second in a series of projects we've done with BCG. In 2013, we did a project called Operational Efficiency and Workflow Improvement. So pretty much the least sexy topic in digital research, but I think really important that we show kind of how the consolidated platform and bringing data together on a consolidated platform is the foundation that drives us into the 2014 project, which is all about data efficiency and performance improvement. It shouldn't be lost on everyone, too, that I think the 2013 project, what we got out of that is by consolidating your business on a single platform, the time savings will free up resources that we can refocus on more higher level tasks that we'll get into with the 2014 study. Starting off with just a quick background on the methodology we used here. So we had advertisers and agencies from 4 verticals. We had auto, finance, retail, and information services. This was all delivered through programmatic display over 4 to 6 weeks in May and June of this year. Small budgets per advertiser. They were 30 to 80K, but the aggregate of all these budgets was about 350K, so we had a pretty good sample size to work with. And one of the prerequisites here, of course, was everything had to happen on a unified technology stack. So you'll hear that theme come up throughout. 5 campaigns across Europe and North America. We had the pleasure of working with a Canadian advertiser and their agency on this. So it was great because my team had a front row seat for the results. The objective is to obviously improve engagement and performance with data. But the methodology we used to do this, so we're really looking at advertisers and their budgets across 3 tactical silos here. So you've got your site-based targeting. This is everything that every advertiser in this room is doing today, has been doing for the last 20 years, will be doing for the next 20 years. Site-based targeting, keyword contextual targeting, category-based targeting, really like seller-defined audiences, I like to call this, where you can deliver those high-impact brand budgets at scale. Really an important part of every advertiser's budget. Moving into the center silo here, I think this is where we see most advertisers who are in the programmatic space today, where they're doing standard programmatic techniques, remarketing, third-party data targeting. So for advertisers who are in programmatic today, for the most part, what you're going to see is you're going to see them spreading their budgets across these first two silos here, which we're calling the control segment. Where we want to get people to is this advanced behavioral targeting. And this is where we focused our test segment in the study, where we're looking at more advanced data collection techniques and data execution techniques through things like lookalike lists, search retargeting, video retargeting, and I think most importantly, behavioral analytics, which were actually the biggest driver of performance in the entire study. So here's our test and control. And jumping right to the results, the aggregate of all 5 campaigns drove a 30 to 50% increase in performance. So what does that mean? On the ROI side of things, we're looking at a 32% reduction in CPA. So that's 32% of the budget returned to the advertiser to reinvest in their campaign. But I think the more striking statistic on this slide is the engagement metric. This is one that I didn't see coming, but where we actually tracked how users were interacting with content after they got back to the advertiser's site. And what we found is there was actually an additional 30 minutes of browsing from advertisers who were compelled back to the site through the test segment. So, putting that in context of a 30-second TV spot, we're looking at an additional 30 minutes in engagement with the brand and the content. So I think, one thing that, when we talk about advanced data and targeting, my head immediately goes to lower funnel. And I think when people think about programmatic and remarketing, it's very much a conversation that people immediately start to think about the bottom of the funnel, getting people across the goal line. What was, really interesting about how we executed this is the tactics are deployed throughout the purchase funnel. So if you look at the dark green bubbles here, these are the advanced targeting techniques. And it all starts in the awareness part of the funnel here, where we've got high impact, high cost, brand focused video impressions being bought by these advertisers. And then we're remarketing off of those engaged users to start a conversation. So it's really important in terms of adding scale through the video remarketing. Then we get them into the consideration. So now they're searching for my brand. They're searching for my products associated with my brand. Let's start a conversation with those people searching through search retargeting. And then finally, we get them into the bottom of the funnel here where they're on the site, they're consuming content, they're looking at products, and we're going to build a profile around those users, retarget them, and now we get them across the goal line to the purchase. So really important when you think about the scale here, that we can target these users across the full funnel and the full purchase journey. All right, so when BCG presents this, they never talk about products. And that's one of the reasons I'm happy I don't work for BCG. Yeah, I mean, it's by design. Obviously, we wanted to do this in partnership, but we didn't want to put our logos all over it. I don't work for BCG. So I'm allowed to put logos on the slide. But I think it's important to have the logos on the slide here, because I think, and I had to put this slide up. I put this in at the last minute. I had to put this up because I think when people start to think about advanced data and advanced targeting, this is where their head goes. It goes to this awful LUMAscape that this is where your head goes, and then your head hurts. Like, I'm the guy at Google who's supposed to understand this, and I don't. So, let's get back to talking about this in very simple terms. Okay? So, thinking about those 3 silos from a few slides back, the standard, reservations, contextual buying, all we're using for that is the ad server we've been using for the last 20 years. So, double-click campaign manager in this case, not a lot of technology. Moving into the center silo where we're adding those standard programmatic tactics, all we're doing in this study is adding double-click bid manager, 2 pieces of technology. To move people right up to the top right here where we've got the advanced data targeting, we've got a 32% reduction in CPA, and the engagement metrics that we talked about, we're actually just adding 2 more pieces of technology. We're adding double-click search and Google Analytics. So a nice, simple execution here across a unified stack of technology can drive these results. And this is all the data collection and the execution happening on a very simple tech stack. Now this is how BCG tells the story. The playbook, according to BCG, and I think these are important points too, starting at the top here, unified platform. So really important to have that data freshness and data completeness. As we talked about, the only way that you're going to get that in real time is consolidation of the business onto a single stack of technology. The second here, advanced techniques. These are all the techniques that we talked about, and I think this isn't just great for driving performance. This is also key to kind of gaining insights for your business that give you a competitive edge versus other people in your vertical. 3, this is the tough one. Okay, so after we presented this in Toronto a couple weeks ago, I had a lot of the agencies come to me afterwards and say, okay, I get it, like we all know that data drives performance, but I don't have resources for the math men and women. And I think this, this is probably the most difficult one for us to accomplish here, but it goes back to that unified platform. The more you can unify the platform, the more you can eliminate fragmentation, the more resources you have to invest in these different types of resources, getting those math men and women out of the basement in front of the client and really starting to drive the analytics into the campaign program. Number 4, test and learn. This is one that really struck me when we were actually going through the process, because I think there's this rush with advertisers to start measuring performance 2 or 3 days after a campaign launches. And what we actually found with this is there was 2 weeks of absolute chaos. Testing all kinds of stuff, nobody's looking at performance, and we're going, oh my God, this is not going to end well. But sure enough, 2 weeks in, after the test and iterate, we found the sweet spot, and that's where the hockey stick started. And I think there's this need from the advertiser to buy into this idea that test and iterate, gathering the data on that performance is a part of the process and needs to be invested in. And the last bullet here, attack fragmentation. It exists in everybody's business across teams, tools, campaign strategy, data. And we all need to do the analysis of our business. Where's the fragmentation, and how do we start to eliminate fragmentation? So these are the 5 steps, or the playbook, as BCG calls it. As a follow-up to this, I think we've got printouts of this on the bench back by the bathrooms. I'd encourage everyone to grab a copy on their way out. Please feel free to follow up with JP and I as well. We can come in, do a deep dive with you. This is something that we've been taking to a lot of advertisers since it was released in September, and the feedback's been really strong. And the results are there, and this is not a complex process to get to. So thank you.